Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So I have a bunch of updates to share about the Arizona FrAudit. I can't get to everything in this one video, so I will split it up. I'll do some more another day. But first off, I have an update regarding Ken Bennett. So the Senate liaison, Ken Bennett, as you may recall, was denied access to the building where Cyber Ninjas was performing the recount. They purchased the machines, as I mentioned before, even though the Senate said that this new recount would be conducted independently and alluded to the idea that it would be conducted by the Senate. So Cyber Ninjas in the building conducting this part of the FrAudit, this new part of the FrAudit, this new recount, and they denied him access. Well, we soon found out that Bennett had been permanently banned from the facility where this is taking place. And the reason they gave was because Bennett, as you may also recall, shared partial results with outside entities. And he did that without consulting with or telling the Arizona Republican Senate President, Karen Fann. Well, apparently they made the decision to ban him because, in her words, she said it was, quote, irresponsible to disclose information to the media since they are not confirmed facts until the audit is final. This only leads to confusion and misinformation with the public. For that reason, it is imperative anyone working with the audit is required to adhere to the rules of not disclosing unconfirmed information. This is the same woman who held a hearing recently and allowed Cyber Ninjas to spew out unconfirmed information about their incomplete FrAudit, which literally fueled more fire with these nut jobs who attacked the Capitol and other people. They do zero research. And they don't realize that what Cyber Ninja said was complete BS, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But this woman has the ovaries to say, oh, well, we shouldn't release unconfirmed, incomplete information. Are you kidding me, lady? Seriously? And then when she let them come to the Senate and give this update, she banned Democrats from being in the room, or not being in the room, but being part of the panel that was allowed to question them. So she didn't even allow anybody to question the veracity of what Cyber Ninjas was saying, or to combat it or refute it in any way. Seriously, oh my God, the hypocrisy just is unbelievable. Anyway, we know she's full of it. We know she's trying to hide the truth. She's trying to help Trump because she's a Trump suck up. So we can't expect anything more of her but to manipulate the narrative. Well, in the wake of this whole thing with Bennett being banned, he said he wasn't going to take part in it. He said, I'm not going to pretend to be involved if I'm actually not. Well, apparently he and Fann came to some sort of agreement, and now Bennett is back on board. He's going to remain as the Senate liaison for this FrAudit until further notice. We then learned that numerous nonprofit groups had raised $5.6 million to fund this FrAudit. And all of them are run by pro-Trump election deniers. What a shock. This includes some of the ones that I've mentioned, like Sidney Powell, her nonprofit, Overstock or former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne, OAN correspondents, Christina Bobb, Chanel Rion. But the list also included some names that weren't previously known, like an organization run by Mike Flynn. There was another nonprofit headed by a Michigan attorney by the name of Matthew DePerno. So, you know, while I agree that Chris Cuomo is wrong for helping his accused sexual predator brother to craft his message about his legal troubles, I don't want to hear a word of right-wing outrage about that situation until they have the principles to take issue with this, to take issue with the people who are helping to fund this FrAudit in Arizona, and yet going on TV at night and pretending to be totally non-biased. And you know who's not funding this FrAudit? This is the most important thing. I mean, we kind of already knew that it was going to be a lot of Trump suck-ups that were funding it, but you know who's not funding it? Donald Trump. They say, oh, this is going to blow the lid off of everything. This is just going to open the Pandora's box. This is going to expose all of the conspiracy and the fraudulent actions of Democrats and rhinos. Yeah, Donald Trump doesn't want to be bothered, can't be bothered to spend a dime on this FrAudit. That's how important it is. So he's purportedly brought in $102 million in the last 7 months or whatever it's been this year so far. And it's sitting in an account, and yet he hasn't spent a penny of it on this FrAudit. Instead, according to finance reports, he's spending it on salaries for aides and political advisors. He's spending it on travel, other fundraising efforts. You know, it's almost as if he knows that this Arizona FrAudit is a bunch of BS. Anyway, meanwhile, according to a new report, this sham audit may cost Arizona taxpayers around $9 million. So I've shared with you before about the machines that they have to replace because now they've been compromised potentially by these frauditors, by cyber ninjas, by the other companies involved, who some of whom we still don't even know who they are. But in addition to the new voting machines, the county may now have to purchase new routers for the entire county, which they're saying could cost an additional $6 million. So as I've mentioned before, Republicans in the Senate are trying to obtain, and cyber ninjas, they're trying to obtain the county's routers, which are not just typical routers. This isn't like something you can go down and pick up, at the store at like Best Buy and plug it in. This is a county-wide router that has massive security. And so it's really, really expensive. Now, more recently, they issued a new round of subpoenas, and they're demanding information from the Secretary of State's office. So their requests are basically re-upping what they already asked for, which the judge said that they had to turn over, and they haven't yet. So for one thing, Dominion is being asked to turn over, or demanded to turn over, passwords, tokens, and PIN numbers for their voting machines. But they also reissued subpoenas asking Maricopa County to turn over these routers. And they say that, well, cyber ninjas can't complete this FrAudit unless they have these routers. Well, as I've mentioned before, county officials say if we turn over these routers, there's sensitive data on these routers about Arizona residents. There's potentially information about their medical histories and all kinds of stuff. And they're concerned, rightfully, that these routers could be permanently compromised like the machines, because they could use the information that they get from these routers to potentially create future backdoor access to the county systems. And so they're fighting this. And in addition, Arizona election officials say cyber ninjas has everything that they need. They have all the relevant information that they need to complete a legitimate audit. So they're questioning why this group insists on having these routers. Cyber ninjas, on the other hand, says, oh, well, we can't complete it without the routers. But even an election advisor for Trump's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency said, quote, "It's a bit like their voting systems were ransomwared and held hostage for $9 million, and now they have to find a way to pay for it. Nothing about what's taking place in Maricopa County right now should be a model for others." So basically what he's saying is, yeah, because they're trying to force them to turn over all of these machines, the routers and everything else, it's going to cost the taxpayers like $9 million to replace all of this stuff. And all it does is cause havoc. It potentially puts residents at risk. But, like so many other red herrings used by Trump and the rest of his cult leaders, they're using the reluctance to turn over these routers as evidence of the cover-up. And since a judge previously ruled in the Senate's favor on this matter, like I said, this information may need to be turned over. They may not have a chance. And so they will have to replace the county's routers to protect this information. But the county isn't the only one fighting court orders, because Senate President, as you may recall, Trump lover Karen Fann, still hasn't turned over documents related to cyber ninjas and their third-party vendors that they brought on, or like subcontractors. So I shared with all of you that a judge determined, he ordered that all of this information should be made available to the public. He ruled in favor of a nonprofit watchdog group that had sued for access to this information under a public records request. Well, it was ignored. And the Senate is still playing hot potato. They're still claiming that, well, we don't have this information. It's not in our possession. Cyber Ninjas has it. And so we don't have the ability to hand it over. And we're not required to do so. It's not part of public records. So the judge was very clear. But, we'll see where it ends up, because they've appealed the judge's ruling. And then in the meantime, the official Twitter account for this Arizona FrAudit was shut down, and it was because of their continued spread of misinformation. Now, I have shared with you guys, make no secret about it, I don't agree with silencing people. I don't agree with removing people from these social media channels, but it's a private company. But Trump is still out there pushing this false information, these false innuendos that Cyber Ninjas made when they had their Senate meeting that Democrats were barred from sitting in on and asking questions at. So at his recent rally in Arizona, he repeated this lie that over 74,000 ballots were illegitimate because there's no record of them being mailed out. The problem is that, according to journalists, according to people who've looked into this, one of the people who cast one of those 74,000 odd ballots that are in question was at the rally. One of them was a public official that was at Trump's rally in Arizona. So the thing is, they're, of course, making this case, there were 74,000 plus ballots that were received and counted in the vote total, but there's no record of those ballots being requested. Well, part of what's included in that 74,000 plus number are voters who went to a polling place and voted early in person. Now, of course, none of them are going to admit that. Trump stood on the stage. He repeated the lie. The person was there at the rally and said nothing. So we'll see where this all shakes out. Like I said, I have some more updates for you guys. I will share that with you another day. But as always, thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.